Hi, I am Emily Parker, and today you're going to hear about the wedding day that almost wasn't mine. Imagine standing at the altar, heart pounding, dress perfect, and realizing the people who promised to be there aren't. No explanation, no call, just empty seats where your family should be. What would you do if your mom and brother skipped your big day to be on a tropical vacation and brushed it off as no big deal? That's exactly what happened to me. This is not just a story about betrayal. It's about reclaiming what's rightfully yours, even when it costs you everything. Have you ever been abandoned on your happiest day? Now, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let's dive in. Monday morning in San Diego should have felt magical. My white dress shimmered in the morning sun. Jonathan, my fiancé, and I were on the way to El Camino Wedding Garden for the ceremony of our dreams. I had spent 12 months planning everything, from finding the perfect gown to building invitations by hand, designing centerpieces with my favorite lilies, and working late nights after ICU shifts to save for the venue. My mom, Lisa, told me, "I can't wait to see what kind of wedding this will be." My brother Alex said, "It'll be the kids' first wedding too. I hope they'll remember it forever." Their words fueled me through the early mornings and exhausted nights. I believed they were as excited about our big day as we were. But 2 hours before the ceremony, I walked up to the reception tent and froze. The family table, 6 chairs, a floral runner, stood meticulously set, yet no one was seated. I asked a server, hands shaking. She checked her earpiece, nodded, whispered, then told me, "They aren't here yet." "Are they coming?" I asked, voice tight. She gave a small bow and walked away. I felt blood drain from my face. My mom, my brother? Missing my wedding? Impossible. My heart clenched. I called Lisa and Alex, but both calls went straight to voicemail. No texts, no messages. I gripped my phone as laughter and celebration floated over from the main tent, sounds that suddenly felt like someone else's life. Jonathan rushed up. "Emily, hey, are you okay?" My voice was shaky as I held up the phone's blank screen. "They're not here, and they're not answering." He hugged me. Maybe traffic, maybe hotel. Something happened. But my blood ran cold. They had to have reached out, to say sorry, be late, anything. Yet, nothing. I felt tears threatening, but held them back. We stayed behind the tent flap until 20 minutes before the ceremony. Then I made a decision. "Let's do this," I said, "for us." Before walking down that aisle, though, I took another look at the empty family seats. Then I tucked my phone away and stepped forward. The sun shone, guests stood, the music played. In that moment, I realized the people who matter don't need reminders. They choose to show up. And today, I chose to move forward, with or without them. That night, we looked at wedding photos and saw Mom posting sunrise shots in Kauai, cocktail in hand, niece and nephews splashing in the pool. "Family vacation, best time ever," it read. My head spun. On my wedding day? I stared at Jonathan. "I can't believe it." He swallowed. "This can't be real." My voice cracked when I finally heard from my mom. "It was just a little mix-up. Stop calling." My throat closed. "You skipped my wedding and said it was just a little thing?" My shoulders shook. I kept looking at the blue water in the picture like someone was messing with me. "I did everything to include you," I whispered. He wrapped me tight. "You did nothing wrong. This wasn't you. Or them." He kissed my forehead. "They're wrong, we're right." And in that moment, every ounce of hurt settled with him. That decision didn't end on the dance floor. A week later, I reached out to my bank and closed the joint mortgage account I'd been paying for my parents' house for 2 years. After Dad died, I quietly took over the payments, many nights, completing ICU charts while my bank account emptied. Mom never called to say thanks. She skipped my wedding. She called it just a small thing. So I stopped. I walked into the bank. Bank teller looked surprised, but handed me the docs. Relief crashed over me. I felt reclaimed for the first time. It wasn't spite. It was self-respect. 2 weeks later, Mom called. Voice soft, pleading. "I'm sorry I missed your wedding. I'm not asking for forgiveness, just help with the mortgage." I paused, anger still raw. "You chose to skip our wedding," I said quietly. "You knew how much that day meant. I paid that mortgage for 2 years, not for you, but for us. But when you didn't show up, I realized you aren't part of my life anymore." She stared. "Please," she whispered. I stood firm. "I'm not your ATM. I've set boundaries. We're done." And with that, I felt a deep ache, but no regret. What came next was worse. Aunt Carol confronted me. "Your mother is ruined." "Who just cuts your own daughter off?" Cousins accused me. "You owe her." I listened, tired, hurt. No more explaining. Silence was my choice, but in the eye of that storm, I found peace. One evening, Aunt Carol veered kindly. "Heather, you did nothing wrong. I'm sorry." And I realized some bonds can heal, but others are better left safely closed. Today, Jonathan and I live in our own place. 2 hearts, not 4. We've found quiet moments, spa dates, cooking classes, coffee shops. The house is lighter without the tension, and laughter has returned. 2 nights before my first anniversary, Mom showed up at my door. I was calm. She apologized again. I heard the sorrow, but didn't step forward. "I'm sorry for you," she said. I responded, "Boundaries protect me." She nodded. Left. No tears. Just acceptance. So here's what I learned. Family isn't just who you share DNA with, it's who shows up. Those who skate into your life when it's easy aren't real keeps, but the ones who stand by you when no one's looking, that's family. And today, our chosen family, the ones who stay, the ones who care, is everything that matters. That was part 1 of my story. In part 2, you'll hear about the fallout, the messy calls from relatives, the legal steps that followed, and how I rebuilt my life piece by piece. See you in the next one. By Tuesday morning, the fallout began. I started seeing text chains across the family grapevine, cousins asking why I did this, a few forwarding links to posts where my mom framed me as the ungrateful daughter. "Your daughter cut you off?" one relative texted. "What could be so wrong? She's proud of this." It felt like being accused of a crime I didn't commit. I tried not to show it, but my chest hurt. Even my phone notifications sounded loud, relentless reminders of how badly my family had spun the story. I met with Jonathan after my ICU shift one evening. He sat up in bed, coffee cup in hand. I leaned in. "I don't know if I'm the cold one," I told him, "but I feel guilty for choosing myself." He squeezed my hand. "You didn't choose wrong. You chose self-worth." His words lingered. That night, I organized proof. Screenshots of Mom's Hawaii post, time-stamped bank statements, our chat logs. Even the voice message where she called it a minor thing. I compiled everything into a folder labeled "For My Peace." That weekend, Aunt Carol called again. Her voice was softer. "Heather, I spoke with Mom. She's overwhelmed." I told her calmly, "I'm not stepping back. I need to live in peace. No yelling, no storms, only conviction." She hesitated, sighed. Maybe I was too quick to judge. That line hung in the air like a suspended note of hope. I thanked her. It was the first time someone from that side chose compassion over convenience. The week after, my phone buzzed with support messages from unexpected places. Mom's friends who privately thanked me for standing up. My Sunday morning brunch with Jonathan was calm and warm. "This feels like freedom," I whispered, staring at my latte art. He smiled. "That's because it is. We planned a mini getaway, just the 2 of us." But the real change happened in small, quiet moments. Like the Monday evening I tried a new Thai recipe at home. The aroma filled the kitchen and I realized I was cooking for joy, not distraction. Or when I joined a meditation group and found myself laughing during the closing session, my heart unclenching in real time. I didn't need a big celebration, I needed small celebrations, and they were abundant. One afternoon, I visited a therapist for the first time. I admitted I still ached for validation from the mother I thought I could count on. She nodded. It's okay to grieve familial trust. I realized grief isn't just for death, it's for loss of what was supposed to be. But then she said something powerful. You get to define who your family is now. And I felt a weight lift. Tuesday evening brought unexpected news. My mortgage auto payment had bounced due to the account closure. My mom had messaged wardrobe reminders for my wedding that same day. Like clockwork, I could have reopened the account, but I didn't. My boundaries stayed intact. Instead, I emailed my bank to set up a new personal account and withdrew any obligation tied to them. By month's end, Mom sent another message. I miss you. I want to apologize, but not pressure. I froze. Part of me ached, but I didn't respond. Yet. I was stronger now. My life didn't orbit her approval anymore. I was no longer waiting for validation that would never come. Instead, I was building a future that reflected me, not her expectations. Change isn't always loud. Sometimes it's turning off a phone call and picking up a paintbrush instead. I started attending a weekly art class. My first piece was a simple abstract, swirls of teal and gold. It didn't hang in a gallery, but I painted it for me. It felt like reclamation. I was no longer living to match someone else's script. Looking in the mirror one morning, I realized I looked different. Not better, not healed, but whole. The tightness in my chest had softened. A new layer of curiosity had emerged. I was ready to ask, who am I without their story? And that question felt more exciting than terrifying. So yes, what was supposed to be a story about betrayal has turned into a story about rebirth, about walking away from family whose love was conditional. It's about finding strength in silence and dignity in self-care. In the next part, I'll unpack the legal side, how I consulted with a therapist and lawyer, and what I learned about protecting myself and creating healthier bonds. And I'll share how we began building a new community, one built on mutual respect and shared joy. The legal meeting with the attorney was a turning point. I sat across from her in a small, sunlit office, photos of family and waves on the wall. She listened quietly as I laid out my evidence. Bank statements, screenshots of Mom's Hawaii post, voice messages, even Aunt Carol's reluctant apology. This is harassment and defamation, she said, firmly. She explained my rights to seek a restraining order, a legal step to protect my boundary. You don't need a family member's permission to live in peace, she reminded me. I felt relief, but also guilt. Could I really file against my own mother? The attorney acknowledged that inner conflict, but reassured me that establishing clear boundaries wasn't selfish. It was necessary. After the appointment, I left with forms in hand and a heavy yet determined heart. That same day, I emailed Jonathan. I'm moving forward, for both of us. And he replied, I'll walk this path with you. 2 weeks later, the restraining order was granted. My heart raced as I received the court confirmation. The email read, no contact from Mom, no calls, messages, visits, or through third parties. It felt surreal. Part of me expected remorse, but the silence was deafening. Instead of posts or calls, I received brief, curt responses from relatives, asking why I had taken this step so severely. A few cousins sent notes expressing support and surprise, saying, we never knew she disregarded your feelings. It felt bittersweet. Validation from outsiders, confusion from insiders, but each supportive message helped reframe my reality. I wasn't overreacting. I had done what was needed to protect myself. That evening, Jonathan cooked dinner while I sat at the table reviewing documents. I felt a strange lightness, as though water had been drained from a sinking boat. I wasn't drowning anymore. I was afloat. In the weeks that followed, the quiet was almost shocking. No calls, no social media updates, no headaches. Instead, the small daily joys became louder. One morning, I woke up 5 minutes before my alarm, a luxury. I made coffee and walked to the balcony, watching the sunrise over our backyard garden. I realized I hadn't thought about Mom's actions all morning. It wasn't forgetting. It was healing. One afternoon, I received an unexpected invitation from Kathy, Jonathan's mom. Dinner next Friday, it read. I almost said no. I was still wary of family gatherings. But then I paused. Could I allow kindness back in? I responded, yes, please. That evening, I found myself anticipating a dinner with open minds and warm hearts. The simplicity of that hope felt revolutionary. As the month progressed, I joined a local women's support group. Women sharing stories of family estrangement, boundary setting, and rebuilding trust with oneself. One night, I shared mine. The wedding, the missing people, the mortgage, the restraining order. I cried. They didn't judge. Instead, they applauded my strength. A woman named Mara said, "You rewrote your story. That's powerful." And I realized I had. My identity was no longer tied to what was taken. It was rooted in what I recovered. Confidence, peace, autonomy. I volunteered to lead a few meetings and realized that helping others feel seen felt like sunlight on fresh snow. It was warming and bright. By the end of the month, our life felt unrecognizably changed, but in the best way. No legal battles yet, but emotional battles long won. I began planning a small vow renewal with Jonathan, just us, no extended family, a tiny ceremony in our backyard at sunset. It felt intimate, intentional, and perfect. As I wrote vows about trust, respect, and mutual support, I realized I was writing a new chapter, one that future me would be proud of. And as we stood barefoot in the grass, we promised each other presence. Not perfection, but presence. And that promise grounded us, building our true family in that quiet backyard light. By the time June rolled around, my life had shifted in ways I never expected. The restraining order was in place, and Mom wasn't allowed to contact me in any form. It felt strange, empty at first, but also peaceful. I moved into a new rhythm focused on healing, connection, and rebuilding. The kitchen was my sanctuary. I started cooking Sunday morning brunches on our own, experimenting with Israeli shakshuka and sourdough bread. Each sizzling pan and warm loaf felt like permission to nurture myself, to find pleasure in simple acts of creation. It wasn't a grand gesture, it was change in small kindnesses. One Wednesday evening, I got an invitation from Aunt Carol. She wanted to visit me. My first instinct was to say no. The last few weeks hadn't been easy putting up boundaries. But she'd quietly supported me, even called some relatives explaining my side. I responded that I'd consider it. A week later, she arrived at our front door with a bouquet of dahlias, my mother's favorite. We hugged tentatively. Over tea, she said, "I'm sorry for all that happened. I came to check on you, to thank you for stepping away when no one else would." I wanted to believe her. I wanted relief. But years of disappointment made the words fragile. I nodded and listened. She didn't ask me to forgive. She just thanked me. That was enough. That same week, Kathy and Jonathan's mom hosted a cozy Friday dinner. The table was set with candles and laughter. My cheeks tingled at her compliment. "You were radiant on your wedding day," she said gently. I saw it. In that warmth, I realized how rare acknowledgement could heal. My in-laws didn't excuse my mother, but they held me exactly as I was, free to be whole. As summer edged into fall, I began working on a memoir project, a local publisher had approached me after hearing a few interviews. The book would explore how to walk away from unfaithful families and build chosen kin. I drafted an outline: the wedding, the financial burden, the legal steps, the therapy nights, the first days of calm. Writing it felt liberating, turning painful chapters into tools for others. I found joy in each word that honored my story and respect for my struggles. One particularly hard afternoon, I visited our old house, Dad's house, the one I had supported for 2 years. I stood on the driveway and the memories washed over me. ICU shifts rushing to save lives, empty guest rooms begging for company, mornings slipping away in dread. I'd once bought groceries instead of rent. I'd fixed leaks at 3 a.m. But standing there outside, I felt no guilt. I'd done my best. I whispered into the breeze. I forgive myself for staying too long. A weight lifted. In October, I hosted a small gathering at our home, a mix of friends, community group members, Jonathan's family, and a few women from the support group. The living room glowed with strings of lights and soft chatter. Someone asked me, "Are you okay with everything now?" I paused, looking around at faces who loved me. "I'm okay," I replied. "I'm more than okay. I'm stronger. I'm grounded." I raised a glass to the edges we learn to define and the families we create. Glasses clinked. It wasn't grand, but it was real. Late one night that month, I got an unexpected message from Mom. No apology, just a link to a charity gala she was organizing and a note. "Thought you might be interested in supporting." I stared at it. My therapist's words echoed. "Boundaries are not forever, but for rebuilding." So I replied, "Thanks for the invite, but not now." I didn't wait for a response. I felt calm, and not guilty. On November 1st, I celebrated my birthday at a cafe with select people: Jonathan, Kathy, Aunt Carol, Mara from the group, and 2 close colleagues. Over coffee and carrot cake, I shared a toast recalling my journey, from hurt to harmony. I talked about the strength in saying no, the freedom in choosing myself, and the beauty of found families. Tears were shed and laughter followed. I felt seen. As the year ends, I reflect on what's changed. My life isn't easier, it's truer. I'm still healing, but now it's from a place of safety. I built boundaries, and in doing so, built myself anew. The pain isn't erased, but it's no longer defining me. In the final part, I'll talk about what lies ahead: the memoir release, the vow renewal ceremony at the garden, how so-called family responded when the press picked up my story, and what I've learned about trust, love, and that life doesn't have to be hollow to be beautiful. Stay tuned. By January, the air felt different, lighter. The memoir was almost ready to send to my editor, and the vow renewal ceremony loomed in just weeks. As the story of my wedding day and aftermath began circulating in wellness circles and close friends shared it, responses varied. Some family members tried to reach out, cousins, a few distant relatives, saying they were praying for me, urging me to forgive and reconnect. But healing doesn't come by demand, it comes by permission. I responded respectfully, "I'm healing, thank you, not ready yet," and I kept writing, kept preparing for our next ceremony. 3 weeks before the vow renewal, reporters reached out, both local lifestyle and national wedding blogs. They'd heard part of the story, the powerful bride who reclaimed her narrative, who walked away from a family that didn't show up when it mattered most. I hesitated. My journey had been vulnerable. Putting it in the public would expose more wounds. But then I remembered why I started sharing: storytelling as therapy and connection. So I agreed to a feature titled "Building a Family with No Missing Seats." The writer caught the essence. Boundaries aren't bitterness, they're clarity. We talked for an hour about the emotional mortgage, the legal steps, the eventual love and support of chosen family. I kept my voice calm. I refused to sensationalize. The article published a week before the ceremony, and oddly, it felt like release. Comments poured in. I went through the same thing. You gave me courage to set boundaries. Your story gave me peace. I cried at my desk, not from pain, but because words can heal. The vow renewal was held in the same El Camino garden where we first wed. We invited just 20 close souls: Jonathan's mom, Kathy, Aunt Carol, Mara, our best friends, and the small community that formed in the last year. The setting sun painted petals across the grass. I wore the same dress, but this time, my heart felt free. We recited vows that celebrated presence, respect, and love, chosen, not demanded. We exchanged rings, etched with a simple phrase: edge and breadth. Edge for the boundaries I learned to hold, breadth for the love that expanded around us when we chose ourselves. After we said our vows, Kathy stepped forward. She raised her glass and said, "To love that stands no matter what." The crowd toasted, and I looked around at faces I trusted, not hoped. Afterward, I gave a short speech. Today isn't just about us renewing vows. It's a celebration of family that shows up, of story that doesn't silence itself, and of second chances when they're earned, not demanded. The applause carried me. In the weeks that followed, my story found new homes. A wellness podcast invited me on an episode about emotional resilience. A small documentary team asked to follow one morning as I prepared a talk on boundary setting. Each invitation felt still, but significant. I said yes, but on terms that honored my pace. No raw retelling, just takeaways for others. And speaking those truths out loud reminded me that my life is bigger than their absence. Meanwhile, Mom's page went quiet. No posts, no calls. The restraining order had expired by law, but I didn't renew it. I also didn't delete it. I let the boundary remain in place, not as punishment, but as protection. If she reached out sincerely someday, maybe I'd respond. Not now. Trust isn't rebuilt overnight. It's grown in slow moments, if at all. One sunny afternoon, my phone rang. It was Mom. I let it ring 4 times and then declined. I didn't feel guilt, just resolve. Peace had returned. Last month, I received a proof copy of my memoir. I flipped through the pages in my cozy apartment. Words that once felt jagged now flowed like water. From first heartbreak to final release, from missing seats to seated love. I closed the book and breathed deep. My life didn't fit anyone else's frame, and that's exactly how I wanted it. The final chapter of my memoir ends with this question: who will show up for your life, and will that be enough? I answered it, and it was. Thank you for walking this path with me. If anything in this story resonates with you, I hope you'll share your experiences below, because sometimes healing starts when someone else hears you.